All right, so good evening, everyone. I hope we are doing fine. So in today's virtual meeting for menstrual health hygiene management and for climate change, we are privileged to have Mr. Frederick Karwele, who will be taking us in today's session where I will be discussing about how do you create and run an effective community or school club, of which I feel like these are important aspects for you as an advocate to know, because you might say you want to start a club in menstrual health hygiene management, or you might want to start a club under climate change. So at this junction, I'm gonna allow him to introduce himself and take us through today's session. So Mr. Frederick Karwele, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Ms. Judith. And good evening, everyone. Hannah, good evening. Samson, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Mambo, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Hannah, good evening once more.
Good evening.
Okay, thank you so much. I just wanted to be sure that everyone is in attendance. You know, these online meetings, people log in and leave just like that. So now I'm sure and I'm happy that we have a committed team. Yeah, as Judith said, my name is Frederick Kaluwele, not the way she pronounces my surname. It's Kaluwele. I'm a teacher by profession. I'm a child specialist because I'm more into early childhood education. And I'm also an early childhood education consultant. Currently, I'm working with Zambia Open Community Schools, ZOCS. It's a Zambian non-governmental organization, yeah, which deals with community schools in Zambia to ensure that every child get quality education, especially the marginalized and vulnerable children in rural parts of Zambia. So I'm a project officer under the project which we call School Readiness Initiative. Yeah, so basically, this is the person who ran you through today's presentation. Once again, you are welcome. So we can get started. Okay. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we are able to see it.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, so I've included my contact number on the first slide, as well as my email address in case some people may want to reach out to me. You can use the particulars that I've put. Okay. Judith, I'm having challenges now on moving to the next slide.
I don't know, on your keyboard there's like the forward button you click on, and then it should be able to change to the next slide the way you did last time.
You just try to restart it again.
Yeah, you can just restart it.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
go, yeah.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah, so let's get started. Our topic for today is how to create and run an effective school or community club. Yeah, so before we get there, we need to understand what a club is. Yeah, so we are told, say, a club is an association dedicated to a particular interest or activity. That's one definition of a club. Then the other one is an organization. So I've highlighted some words in this other definition because these words that I've highlighted are of great interest. So we are saying it's an organization of people with a common purpose or interest who meet regularly and take part in shared activities. So what we are saying is a club should be a form of an organization. So in the first place, what we see from a club is people coming together as a form of an organization, okay? So when they come together as people, they are coming with a common purpose, meaning they shouldn't have divided interests. They shouldn't have divided purposes. They should have a common purpose and common interest, okay? So now when they come together with common purpose, they come together with common interest, it doesn't end there. They should start meeting regularly, okay? So when they meet regularly, they should also be able to take part in the shared activities that organization would come up with. So for me, when I look at this definition of a club, I can clearly indicate that I've even finished today's topic. Eh? I've even finished today's topic because we are talking about an organization of people coming together. These people are sharing the common purpose or common interest. Then they are meeting regularly. And it is not ending on meeting regularly. They are also taking part in the shared activities. So basically, this is what constitutes a club, okay? I'll be pausing for questions, though I need guidance. Should I allow questions at the end of the presentation, or I may be pausing and allow questions? Judith,
For
I
this
need to-
session, we'll allow you with whichever method best suits you, because I believe you are a teacher. You might be different from us who are into lecturing. But allow, if there's anyone with a question, just unmute yourselves and introduce yourself and also ask the question. And you'll still be given the chance to also ask at the end of the session, but in between, you're also free to do so.
Yeah, I think that's the right direction. Thank you so much for that guidance. Okay. Yeah, so there are certain steps that we need to follow if we want to create a club, and again, if we want to run it effectively. Yeah, so I've come up with a lot of steps that we are going to discuss through this presentation. So the first step is brainstorming ideas, okay? Everything that is into existence today, be it a building, be it an institution, be it an organization, it started as an idea. And it took certain individuals to brainstorm those ideas and actualize them into what is existing now. The step to create a club is to brainstorm ideas, okay? So your first step is deciding what you want your club to focus on. That's the first step. If you have an idea of coming up with a club at school or in the community where you live, the first thing, think about what your club wants to focus on. For example, we are talking about menstrual hygiene. Would you want to form a club about menstrual hygiene in a school or in the community? Then what are you going to focus on in that particular club? You may already know, but if you don't, think about your and activities you enjoy doing, okay? So you may have an idea of what you want to focus on. But again, if that becomes a challenge to you, you may about your interests, okay, and activities that you enjoy doing that are going to help you actualize that idea that you have. For example, if you want to form the menstrual hygiene club that I was talking about, think about your interests. Is my interest in ensuring that children or teenagers, especially girls, have access to good and health menstrual practices? If that's what your interest is, start thinking about it. The activities that you enjoy doing. Okay. So once you have that idea, check to make sure your target school doesn't already have a similar club. You know, one thing that I've believed is that there's nothing new that will come under the sun. It's more like research. I know some of us are in school, we are doing some research work and the like. There's nothing that we are going to research that has never been researched before. But we are going to bring out new ideas because people's behavior change with time. So we are also going to do some research so that our knowledge is advanced. So the idea that I'm bringing out is that you need to check so that you ensure that your target school doesn't already have a similar club, okay? Because these things, we do things that are almost the same. It's just that they are done by different people and they are called by different project names. Yeah. So how can you do this? How can you check to ensure that your target school doesn't have an already existing club which is similar? You can do this by asking the head teacher or any teacher according to the school structure. You know, in schools, we have different structures depending on different settings. So you can go to the head teacher, you ask them, you share your idea with them. I have an idea of coming up with a club that will be dealing with this and that. Does the school have a club of similar interests? So that you are sure before creating one. If it's in the community, of course, we engage traditional leaders because these are the custodians of people that are found in the communities. So depending on your setup, on your community setup, if you are in an urban area, you can engage those the chairpersons. If you are in a rural setup, you can engage traditional leaders. Those are the people that are even going to help you mobilize the communities, mobilize your members. Yeah, so you can do that at school level, even at community level. Okay. Judith.
Yes, yes, yes. It's failing again.
I want to move to the next slide.
Whatever.
Now,
This digital thing
I
is,
am,
yeah.
I am becoming a BBC person at my age. Can you imagine? Okay. Then step two. Step two, you need to define the club's purpose and goals. Okay. So once you know what you want your club to be about, it's time to get more specific. Okay. So you need to figure out what the purpose of the club is, what activities you want members to take part in, and what goals you have for the club. We understand that for any club, for any organization, for any institution to exist and stick to its purpose, it has to be established on certain principles. And these principles are what we call goals. Okay. So after finding out, after thinking through the ideas that you have, and you are convinced beyond reasonable doubt that you need to come up with one, you have to look at what your club is going to be about. So this time you need to be more specific so that even as you share your ideas to other people, even as you engage other people, you have what to tell them. You have what to tell them so that you win their hearts to support you. Okay? By figuring this out now, you will be able to provide a clearer and more complete vision of your club when you present the idea to the school and potential members. It's very important to set your vision, to set your purpose, to set your goals clearly. Because when you do this, you are going to make your potential members, the school administrators, or the community leaders be more interested in what you want to do. Imagine you are looking for something that you are not sure of. How are you going to convince people? It's like a young lady, a young man, I mean, who is after a certain young lady. You approach that young lady, you start talking to her. She asks you something, you stopped me. What do you want to tell me? Then you start scratching your head. No, I was just following you, just to say, no, you are looking beautiful, this and that, you know. But if you know the purpose why you are following her, if you have your goals, you are going to make your goals and your purpose clear to her. And it won't be a very difficult thing to win her heart, because you could have clearly indicated your intentions and everything that you want from that particular young lady. So the same applies to this, okay? So we can go to step number 3. Step number 3. Still having challenges here. Okay, so under step number 2, there are other questions that you need to ask yourself. Okay, why do you want to start this club? It's about indicating your goals and your purpose. What is the purpose of the club? What will club members do during meetings? It's very important to plan all those things and to answer these questions. How often will the club be meeting? Where will the club be meeting? What are the goals of this club? Do potential members need to try out for the club, or will anyone be allowed to join? So these are some of the questions that you need to ask yourself as you are defining your purpose and your goals. Maybe I may pause here if we have some people with questions. Okay, silence means progress. Not so.
Yes,
Okay.
sir, it does.
Oh, okay, thank you so much. Yeah, so step number 3 is to register your club with the target school or with the target community. So if you want to open it, maybe in a high school, most high schools require clubs to go through a process to become school approved. So this may be as simple as just filling out a form, or it may require discussing the club with teachers or school staff. There are some schools, they are not very formal. They may not even ask you to maybe fill in a simple form or some kind of writing. It will just require you and them sitting down, share with them your purpose, share with them your goals. Then they will allow you to come up with one. Then without school approval, you likely won't be able to have club meetings or post information at school. So it's not something that you just wake up and go at a certain school. You just find pupils there, you call them under the tree, you discuss with them without seeking approval from the school management. So when you do that without seeking approval from the school management, it will make your work difficult to recruit members. So learn how to properly register your club and make it official. Yeah, because it's the same teachers, it's the same administration that are going to support you, that are going to make sure that pupils or learners understand what you want to achieve with your club. If you are not sure how to do this, ask your academic advisor, a teacher, or someone at the school office. Yeah. If you don't know the process on how to register it and everything, just go to the head teacher. Talk to them. I have this idea. The club is about ABC and D. Please guide me. How can I register it with you so that it becomes official and it becomes part of the school? Actually, it is at this point where you need to make it clear that the school claims ownership of the project or of the club, because whatever is going to come out of that club will be beneficial to both the pupils, the teachers, and the community at large. So it is at this point of registration where you need to make the school become responsible and claim ownership for sustainability's sake. Yeah, because people travel. You may introduce a club at a certain school and you may move out of that particular town. But if your base was good, if your registration was done following these processes, you may be out in another place and yet your club is running at a school because teachers were properly oriented, the management was properly oriented, and they embraced your idea and supported you. So before you register your club, make sure you have completed the previous steps, the steps that I had already talked about. So before you register it, make sure that you complete those steps so that you can answer questions about the club. You know, when you're introducing something new to people who may not understand what you want to achieve, there are a lot of questions that are going to come. And if you have followed the steps that I clearly indicated, it will be very easy for you to answer questions that people might be asking, okay? They can ask questions like why you want to create it and what club members will be doing, okay? After getting your club out of school, a teacher or staff member may be assigned as the club supervisor, okay? If not, ask any teacher you know well or who you think will have an interest in the club to act as the supervisor. These people are the ones that are going to help you in your absence. These are the people that spend much of their time with the children who are your target group. So engage them, involve them so that they help you to supervise these children. They help you to organize these children so that even at a point when you want to meet them, you find them already organized, just waiting for you. Then your school may also require you to write bylaws for the club, which will explain what the purpose of the club is, how people can join the club, if and how club elections will be held, and more other things. Yeah, so it's more like a constitution of some kind where you need to do a write-up to just come up with certain laws that are going to govern that particular club. You know, in as much as you are dealing with, it might be maybe primary school children or secondary school learners, you need to come up with bylaws that govern your club, okay? Like how can people join the club? Is it only restricted to pupils of that particular school, or even pupils from a sister school can come and join? All those laws should clearly indicate. If it's in the community, it should clearly indicate. Can members also come from other neighboring communities or other neighboring compounds or villages? All those things should be there. If at all we want to talk about structure of the club, how are the elections be held, all those issues, what's the term of office for a chairperson or whatever, depending on the structure that you have come up with. All those things need to be indicated clearly so that going forward, you don't have issues where people are dragging each other over secretary and other positions, okay? Yeah, so we continue. Those who are joining, you are welcome. Feel free and be part of the team. Thank you so much. Okay. Then we go to the next step. The next step is step number where you need to spread the word now. You have registered it. So what do you need to do next? You need to spread the word. It's more like advertising now, making people know what you are doing. Okay, so once you know that you want your club to focus on and have gotten it approved by the school, it's time now to recruit members. Okay, this is the time now to recruit members. If you haven't already, figure out a time and place to hold your first meeting. You may need to get permission from your school to host the meeting in an empty classroom or another place. Yeah, usually when we do even in our projects, when we are doing community sensitizations, if we want to use a school, we don't just call people and say, no, come at this particular school, we'll be having a meeting. No, we need to go to the head, ask for permission, let them give you an empty classroom, or if at all there's no empty classroom, they are going to direct you. Maybe they may have a shelter outside, or they will tell you to say, no, you can go and have your meeting under that big tree there. It is going to shelter you, all those things. Yeah, so you may need to get permission from your school. If it's in the village, you may need to get permission from the village so that people don't get surprised when they see you with a group of people. You know, we are living at a time when organizing people is becoming something very serious. You may be misunderstood by certain individuals, especially in the political realm. Okay. Yeah, so mention your club to your friends and people you think will be interested. This is where now the whole thing is sitting on. We always encourage people to network themselves. Okay. Networking is very important. So it is at this point where you need to mention your club to friends and people you think will be interested. So if your school allows it, create and post some flyers. If you are capable of, publishing some flyers, create and post them, stick them on the trees, on the walls, notice boards, and wherever you may feel. Okay, a week or two before the first meeting. That briefly states the club's name. Yeah, so like when you want to come up with a flyer, you talk about the club's name, the purpose, the time and the date of the first meeting. Then try to make these flyers eye-catching, and interesting to look at. There are a lot of flyers that we see. I'm receiving some feedback. Okay. I was saying there are certain flyers that we see in towns, especially from these traditional doctors. They are not even eye-catching and attractive and interesting to look at. So here you are spreading the word. You are winning hearts. If it's in Christianity, we may say you are winning souls to Christ. Yeah. So now here you are winning people, to buy into your project or your club. So make sure as you are trying to make these flyers, they are eye-catching and interesting to look at, so that when people see it stuck on the tree, it calls them to read what's on there. Okay. So now we need to look at step number 5, which you need to consider. Okay. Let me just step number 5. Step number 5, hold your first club meeting. Okay, hold your first club meeting. So don't try to do too much at your first meeting. Yeah, you are just starting. Okay, so you shouldn't do too much work on the first meeting, because they say first cut is the deepest. You can't call for the first meeting and keep people for more than 3 hours. and keep children for more than 3 hours, that would show that that's the nature of the club. You'll be keeping people for too long. So be as brief as possible. Again, in as much as you are trying to be as brief as possible, your goal should just be to introduce the club. Okay, guys, I have called you. There is this club that we want to form at school. It will be looking at this, and that. So your goal is just to introduce the club and answer any questions that people may have. Okay, that's your only goal at this first meeting. Just talk about your club, introduce it, and allow people to ask questions that they may have about it. Introduce yourself. Okay, state what the club's purpose and goals are, what members will do, and any potential ideas you have for future activities and events. Also, if you are able, this is just it's just a byway thing. If you are able, provide snacks as a great way to get people to love you and your new club. It's not that you are enticing them or buying them or you are bribing them. No, you know, people just feel appreciated when they are called for a meeting, then they are given something. Yeah, if it's children in schools, it's not even a difficult thing. If you are dealing with primary school learners, just go with Tuma biscuits. They will appreciate just those Tuma small biscuits we were eating in primary. Those ones, they will really appreciate. Okay. And after you have spoken, people who are attending the meeting should be given a chance to introduce themselves. Okay. Give people who are attending the meeting chance to introduce themselves and give their opinion on what they think the club should focus on. You may introduce what you want to focus on in your club, but again, it's very important to allow people that you have called to also share their opinion on what they think the club should focus on. When you do that, have a list where members can write their names, their phone numbers, and email addresses if needed to stay informed on future club news. Yeah, so once you allow them to register and provide the contact details, it will be very easy for you to communicate to them about the next meetings and any developing news that may come between the time between the first meeting and the next meeting. Then at the end of the meeting, let members know where and when the next meeting will be held. It's very important to clearly indicate at the end of the meeting to say, okay, guys, this marks the end of our meeting. The next meeting will be Sunday or will be Monday next week. You even indicate the date. That will be a very good starting point for you. Okay, we proceed as we welcome those who are joining us. You are most welcome. Feel free and be part of the team. Okay, so step number 6, assign duties and plan events. This is very important. So at one of the first few meetings, you should assign leadership roles to help keep the club running smoothly. So this can be done even on the second meeting. See how I've put it. I've said at one of the first few meetings. So after that first meeting that I'm talking about from the previous slide, you may have the second one or even the third. So maybe in the third one or probably the second one, you should assign leadership roles to keep the club running smoothly. So the common officer roles that are included, you may think of any. Actually, I'll pause here. When I finish explaining this, I'll pause here and ask you some of the common officer roles that you feel can be included. So I talked about the president. Yeah, the president of the club. So this president, his role will be to lead and supervise the club with help from other club officers. Okay. After that, we should also assign the vice president. Okay, the vice president we should also choose, and the role of the vice president is to fill in when the president is not available. Okay, we can also choose a club secretary. So the club secretary will take notes during meetings, maintain club records like the membership, if there is some form of some minutes, they should be able to keep that. Okay, keep members updated on club new events and the news. So anything that the club will have in terms of news and events, this secretary should ensure that members are updated on time. Then the other post that I looked at is the treasurer. So this one should be able to manage the club's budget and expenses. If at all there are some contributions that are supposed to be made in a club, this is the person responsible. So as I promised, when we look at this step of assigning duties and plan events together, what are some of the common officer roles that you may include? You imagine formed a club and you have reached this stage. So what are some of the club officer roles that you may include in your club? You can just unmute yourself and feel free to talk. Hello? Let's feel free to talk.
I think also
Anna.
feel free to also just call out people. Some people might be shy. They might have the answer, but they're not willing to come through. So you can just
Okay,
help
thank
them.
you. Actually, that's what I wanted. I started doing, actually. I had already called Anna. Samson,
Yeah.
we are at the stage where you need to choose some officers in your club. So I had given an example of a president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. So now, if it was you forming this club and you have reached this stage, what are some of the roles are you going to consider giving people so that the club is run smoothly?
Good evening.
Evening, thank you.
Okay, so one of the many priority I can consider, for example, if I'm a president for a certain organization, I can first check the people who are committed and the people who are determined to make a difference in someone's life before I choose who I really want to be vice president, who I really want to be a treasurer. I could see their interest and their commitment towards my organization.
Thank you so much. Any other contribution or answer before we proceed? Okay, yeah, so those are some of the officers that you need to choose, but you can come up with trustees, okay? Yeah, matrons, patrons of the club. These are also important people that are going to help you run your activities smoothly. You can come up with even project organizers. These guys, you task them to be looking for projects that you can do as an income generating activity. For example, maybe there's someone who wants their work to be done and you feel your club is capable of doing that. So it's better if the club as a person responsible for projects to be looking for such opportunities so that clubs may have an income generating activity so that their finances are also improving as they are improving day by day. Okay, thank you so much. So we proceed. Okay, so these are some of the officer roles that I was talking about. Okay, so after that, you need to hold the elections or nominate, depending on your on the constitution. Remember, I mentioned about bylaws. So depending on your constitution or the bylaws that you have come up with, you can hold the elections or nominate people to fill these positions. Once you have your club organized and a leadership structure established, start planning activities now for club members. You know, people are supposed to be kept active for the club to run. If you form a club and you keep people dormant, expect people to start withdrawing day by day. So make sure you plan activities, and it should not just end at planning level. You should go ahead and start implementing. So these activities can take place during club meetings or at special events outside of meetings. So activities differ. There are certain activities that you can do with your members during club meetings, and there are some activities that will need special events outside of meetings. Maybe it can be an outing or team building, which needs to be done maybe in like it will be able to go out to a certain place where they can have, you know, enough space to do some team building activities and something of that kind. Then have potential ideas to consider. The potential ideas you need to consider include bringing in guest speakers, okay, planning club outings, organizing fundraisers, and hosting discussions or lectures. So these are some of the activities that you need to look at. It's boring most of the times, people hearing from you, even to children sometimes it's boring. I remember when I was practicing as an early childhood education teacher, you could be teaching children in social studies about community leaders. Then you are talking about a nurse. Sometimes we used to invite nurses from a nearby clinic to come in our classroom and talk to our children. And children could feel happy if they learn from the nurses what nurses do at the clinic or at the hospital. Yeah, so even with the club members, it can be boring and monotonous to be hearing from one person over and over. So bring in guest speakers. Okay, plan club outings. Outings are very important. Actually, you cannot remove play from education. So play is inseparable when it comes to education. Okay, so plan club outings, organizing fundraisers. There is no organization that will run without money. There is no club in school or in community which will survive without money. We need money for the smooth running of activities. So we should plan for organizing fundraisers and hosting discussions or lectures. Okay, it's one of the things that you need to plan for. Then you probably want the first activity to be somewhat small to prevent you or other club members from getting overwhelmed with planning and to increase the probability of it being successful. Yeah, one of the key elements of effective planning, plan something that you are able to achieve. Don't plan to impress your supervisor, or don't plan for the sake of planning. Plan for something that you are able to achieve. So even here we are saying your first activity should be somewhat small. Yeah, you can't form a club today and you start planning for the first activity to be an outing in Livingstone, which will need a lot of money. That's poor planning. You need to start small. Then as people are building confidence in you, as people are bringing in ideas, that's when you can grow from small to big. Because when you plan for something big, be assured that you are going to be overwhelmed with it. People are going to get tired, they are going to be stressed, and eventually you are going to fail. So it's more like an assurance that you are planning to fail. So start small and grow big. Okay. Step number 7, establish a budget. Most clubs, as I mentioned earlier, require some money to stay running. Even if it is only a small amount to cover printing costs and to my snacks, you need to establish a budget. Okay, some clubs may need a much larger budget if they use a lot of materials or go on trips. So your treasurer should develop a budget that gives a rough estimate of the expenses your club will expect to have. The things you may want to have in the budget include printing fees. Okay, we live in the world of technology. Food and drinks, or just say snacks, travel expenses, gifts for guest speakers, and any other materials that you may need. So it's very important to establish a budget. You can approximate as you are planning your activities. Okay, the first activity of the club will be this, and that. How much do we need? We need this and this much. Okay, of course, without exaggerations. Then you go to the next activity, or the next activity will require this and this much, just like that. Then step number 8, keep your club going. Okay, it shouldn't be something that is just active at the beginning. No, you should keep it going. Now that you have your club up and running, it's important to make sure it lasts. Okay, keeping your club around for the long term will ensure that more members get to enjoy it, and it will also look more impressive to colleges or to schools or communities, because it shows that you can commit to something and have the skills to keep a club running long term. Okay, so in order to keep your club going, make sure you continue to follow the above steps and recruit new members, assign leadership roles, stick to a budget, and plan activities and events to keep your club exciting. It can also help to have a special event at the end of each year, whether that's a party or a weekend trip or important guest speaker. Doing this will give members something to look forward to and help keep people interested in the club. Okay? Yeah, so these are some of the key elements that you need to, to consider if you want to keep your club going. Come up with something interesting. Come up with an activity which will keep club members like looking forward to that particular activity. If it's a party, think about it, especially end of year. End of year, you need these activities, these big activities. They are very important in clubs and in organizations. Okay, so starting a club, in a nutshell, what I'm saying is starting a club is a lot of work in the first place. We need to realize that it's a lot of work. Okay, so make sure you have enough time to devote to it before you begin the process. It requires your time, it requires your dedication, enough time to devote yourself to it before you begin the process. Okay, then number 2, these are take-home points that I'm giving you now as I wind up. Don't try to do everything all at once. Okay, yeah, because Rome was not built in a day. So don't try to do everything all at once. It's okay to start small and have your first few meetings. Focus mostly on getting to know each other and brainstorming ideas. Trying to plan too many things right away can be exhausting and overwhelming. So take a step at a time, just like that. Then encourage group members to voice their opinions. It's very important. Please talk to your group members. Feel free to air out your opinions. Feel free to talk about things that are affecting you. It's very important. Once you involve them, even in decision-making processes, they feel part of the club. They even feel ownership. They develop the sense of ownership. Okay? And it should not just end at encouraging group members to voice their opinions. Make sure you listen to their ideas. Okay? Taking multiple viewpoints into consideration will help your members enjoy the club more and can give you great ideas for future activities. In as much as you came up with the idea of forming that club, it doesn't guarantee you to be the master in everything. No. Allow people to come in and help you. Okay. If there are similar clubs or organizations at your school or in your community, you may want to consider working with them. So identify if there are certain clubs, similar clubs or similar organizations at your school or in your community. Consider partnering with them. Not maybe in everything, but maybe in certain activities. Bring them on board so that you work together. This can help spread the word about your club and again help your members meet new people and give you more options for interesting activities. You're also going to learn from them. Okay. Yeah, so basically, it's unfortunate that some are joining when I'm winding up. Yeah, so basically, this is how you can come up with a club and ensure that it runs effectively. Yeah, so much for your time. But before I say good night to everyone, I hand over to Judith, the host, so that she gives people an opportunity to ask questions and make contributions or other comments. Judith, over to you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Frederick. It was really an amazing session. I equally had the privilege to also learn from you during this presentation, and I enjoyed it. And thank you for sticking to the time that was allocated to you. So ladies, gentlemen, feel free, you can just unmute yourself if you have any questions you might want to particularly ask while our presenter is still in the room. Feel free, get to interact with him and ask him. Okay, so Janet is saying thank you for the presentation, and so is Anna Nenyambe. It was very insightful. I think you were very clear. People were able to grasp what you taught on. But then I might want to ask you, like, let's say for an example, I want to introduce a club that is for reading, and I want to focus on, let's say, grade 1s, grade 2, grade 3, like looking at the fact that you have also a background in early childhood education, what are some of the advice that you can give me that can make me ensure that my club, as I'm mingling with these children, is also effective? Are there some techniques or things that I can incorporate in the club to ensure that children that have joined in that club are also willing to participate actively and also to get involved?
Thank you so much for that question. Actually, coming up with a reading club is a very, very good initiative, especially considering the age that you have mentioned, or rather the grades, like grade 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, so for you to run that club effectively, there are certain techniques that you need, especially that the age that you are looking at is not the age that you can keep for a long time. So one of the techniques that you need to put into consideration is your approach to teaching. I'm sure as you are talking about teaching children reading, you need to consider the approach that you are going to use, because these are the children that cannot be kept for a long period of time with a teacher just teaching as if he or she is teaching, or maybe secondary school pupils. Yeah, so some of the ideas that I can share with you that you can use as I'm talking about the approach is you need to have a play-based approach where you come up with activities that play in nature that are going to provide an opportunity for children to learn without even realizing that they are learning. For example, there are a lot of literacy games that you can do to children. Children will be able to play and they are going to be interested in playing without even realizing that they are learning. For example, if you are talking about grade ones, you want to teach them vowels, okay? A, E, I, O, U. You can come up with a very interesting game of vowels. So as they will be playing with that game, number one, they are identifying vowels. And it is not only going to end at identifying vowels, they are going to know them. The more they interact with that game and getting involved, the more they are learning about it. And eventually, they are going to grasp the concept that you want to teach. So basically what you need to do is, number one, the approach that you need to adopt a play-based approach that will provide some kind of play to children that is going to be funny, that is not going to be boring, okay? And again, that is going to be captivating. As I mentioned earlier on, involve their teachers so that they are part of the team, so that even as they come to you, they don't come to you as a new person, okay? Because they are just meeting you for the first time. They haven't developed that trust in you. So if you have people they have already trusted nearby you, it gives them confidence even to interact with you freely. So apart from the approaches, you should also bring on board their teachers so that they are there to give them morale and support. Yeah, so basically those are some of the few things that you need to consider.
All right, thank you very much for that. Yeah, because I wanted to highlight that because some of our mentees might have an idea that they want to implement with kids, but since you have brought in the aspect of playing and it might even be incorporating songs as a way of learning. Yeah, so thank you very much. And I think for now, if there are no questions, it's good night from everyone, from me and everyone at CDF. It's good night. I don't know if our last speaker may have last words to say to the class.
Thank you so much. I just want to thank you, Judith, for hosting me, for the privilege and opportunity you gave me to share my presentation with the team. And team, I'm so much thankful for showing up. I hope you have learned one or two things. So Judith will guide on how I'm going to share the presentation. If I'm going to share with her, then she shares with the rest of the team. She will guide. Otherwise, I'm so much humbled and so much thankful for giving me this opportunity. It's a good night from me to you all. Over to you, Judith.
All right, no, thank you very much. So good night, everyone. For the presentation, I think you can just share it with me, then I'll also share in the groups.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you. And good night.
Thank you.